Although the Prusa Mk4 finally has input shaping, it's still stuck with an anemic hotend that drastically limits how fast you can print. Today, I'll show you a simple mod to unlock your printer's full potential and how to get rid of those annoying proprietary Nextruder nozzles. Through my adventures with high-speed printing, I found that there are three fundamental factors required to make a printer go fast. I'm dubbing these factors the Triad of Speed. The first pillar is motion. This encompasses both acceleration and speed. One is useless without the other. Let's take a look at this video of my Voron V0. The G-code is commanding a velocity of 1500 millimeters per second, but because it's only accelerating at 50K, it only reaches this top speed for a fraction of a second. So you can see that top speed is useless if you don't have the acceleration to reach it, and vice versa. The next pillar is structure. This is composed of both the rigidity and resonance of your machine. If either of these is lacking, then your prints will have defects. If your structure isn't rigid enough, then you'll get ghosting as you crank up the acceleration. And if the resonance of the machine is ambiguous, then you'll have to run a slower shaper like EI or 2EI, which can create massive amounts of smoothing on fine details and corners. Just like speed and acceleration, you need both good rigidity and resonances to maintain decent print quality. The last pillar is melt. How fast can you melt the plastic, and can you cool it down sufficiently? Obviously, it doesn't matter how big your hotend is if you can't cool the melt down afterwards. Then you'll just be stuck with a part with terrible, gross overhangs. And if you have great cooling, if you have a tiny hotend, well, then all that cooling does is just serve to cool down your print and increase layer delaminations. When I originally installed Clipper on my Prusa Mark III, I found that even this 7-year-old printer was powerful enough and the structure was rigid enough to run an 11-minute benchy. It was even able to hit bamboo level speeds, 500 millimeters per second at 20,000 acceleration. But the limiting factor was the ancient hotend, the E3D V6. The heater had barely just enough power, but the largest problem was that the melt zone was way too short, a measly 12.5 millimeters. Even with the CHT nozzle, I was only able to stretch the performance out to about 20 millimeters per second cubed, but even then, the melt flow was straining and it was decreasing the print quality. Needless to say, it was incredibly disappointing to see that the Mark IV shipped with a hotend that had the exact same length and wattage heater. What's the point of having a way faster printer if you can't melt the plastic fast enough to take advantage of all that speed? I looked at the hotend and thought to myself, why can't we go with the age-old solution here? Put a volcano block on it. I was lucky enough to have all these spare parts lying around, but if you want to do this, the parts are easy enough to source. You'll need the following parts. Links are in the description below. An aluminum volcano block, a 50-watt heater with about 125 to 150 millimeter leads, a Nextruder to V6 nozzle adapter, and then you'll just need to print yourself a new fan duct. I used Prusa ASA and haven't had any issues. I've been printing up to about 260 degrees with it. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm kind of a nerd and I love numbers. So I really want to quantify the improvement that we're going to see from this mod. In order to do this, I use CNC Kitchen's flow rate test G-code generator. Here's a pretty plot to show this. You can see that the Mark IV is just barely better than a V6 with a CHT nozzle. But with the new mod, we're able to get almost 50% more flow. And this directly translates into real-world results. In order to show this, here are two benchies side by side. Here we have two benchies. The one on the left is printed with a volcano mod. The one on the right was printed with a stock Nextruder. Immediately, looking at the color, you can tell there's a huge difference. The one on the left is like this beautiful glossy black finish, which is what you want. And the one on the right, which is a matte black finish. Admittedly, it looks really cool. This means that your filament was extruded way too cold. And so you're going to run into issues with layer delaminations and generally weak parts. There are also some other issues. You can see the smokestack has some defects. It's not properly adhered to the roof. If we look from the front, you can see that there's a layer shift here. And this is because the infill was not being extruded properly. And so it was actually like warping up and the nozzle hit the infill and caused this layer shift. If we go to the top, you can see that there are tons of holes in the deck and even in the roof here. So huge issues. Surprisingly, there's not a lack of cooling on this, and the reason for that is because we were extruding so cold that you really didn't need to cool down the filament much after it was extruded. This one was printed at about, I think this was 17 minutes and 10 seconds, and this one was printed, I think like 15 minutes and 40 seconds. So you can see the increase in quality and speed just from increasing the flow rate of the hot end. To demonstrate this on a larger, more practical part, I've sliced the same generic box both for the Nextruder and the Volcano. The speeds and accelerations were maxed out, so the flow rate was the limiting factor for print. You can see that the Nextruder came in at 1 hour and 34 minutes, and the Volcano was only 54 minutes. This is a 43% reduction in print time, which is amazing, especially considering that the print quality really doesn't decrease because this printer has input shaping. As you can see, by simply adding a Volcano block, we were basically able to max out the speeds and accelerations on this printer. And in the process, we reduced print times with PETG by almost 50%. At the same time, we were able to get rid of those pesky, proprietary Nextruder nozzles. If you like this video and you want to see more, then please subscribe and use the affiliate links in the description below. All right, see you guys.